We're so grateful that you've agreed to go on a work team experience, and we imagine that your hearts, like ours, are full of the opportunity to share gifts of help and support and listening with communities who have lost so much after a disaster. Sometimes when we give that gift, we are so excited about what we are bringing that we're not aware that even the giving of a gift takes a lot out of us. In the next few minutes, we will explore principles of self-care that will help you both to give generously and to come back as full of life and strength and joy as you left in the first place.
What is self-care?
It's like making sure you're okay. Like, yeah, I'm doing this work, but I'm not gonna kill myself. And at the same time, making sure the people around you are okay, like emotionally, physically, mentally.
If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. Because when you hear other people's stories and you see the destruction and you see the pain and you feel like they feel, it actually impacts you too.
You can only give what's within you. And if you haven't kept your own centered, you're going to be in trouble. And so the volunteer has to have a place where they can talk.
You have to take time to reflect on what it is you've seen, to digest what it is you've heard, to be in conversation and dialogue with those that you go with, to have the creation of community. You have to take time for yourself. You have to get enough rest. You have to get enough water. You have to get the right kinds of food, not junk food all the time, in order to be able for your body and your mind and your spirit to be able to experience this opportunity to serve God and to serve the community.
When leading a mission trip, debriefing daily is really important. That's where we can come each day and process some of the experiences and feelings that we've had throughout the day, and do that in our community, where we can pray for one another and encourage one another.
And what I do is when I've got people in my van driving back, to the site at the end of the day, I'll say, hey, what's the hardest thing you experienced today? What's the best thing you experienced today? Sometimes I think about a sponge. And if you take a sponge and you mop up a little bit of water, it'll come right up. And you can do that several times. But after a while, that sponge is going to get so sopping wet that if you try to mop up other water with that, it's not going to do any good. You're just going to leave more stuff there. It's like us emotionally.
We're halfway through the week, and to rejuvenate ourselves, every night we have devotionals where everybody is able to say what happened throughout the day, what made them happy. Because, you're tired, it's a 10-hour day.
It is important to have someone to talk with, whether it's a supervisor or a team leader or someone else that you're working with, because you are going to be inundated with the sorrow and with the compassion, and you've got to go with your frustration even to someone else. So that's really important. You're not in this alone. And you have to keep your spiritual core. If you're coming from a faith-based perspective, you need to continue with your times of prayer, with your times of devotion, whatever that might be, with your community church. There's got to be some normalcy for you to be able to project normalcy and promise normalcy to the people that you're working with.
Working these 10, 12-hour days, you got to have time to recoup. And it's really important for especially introverts. Introverts are drained by being around people. And it's okay to put those headphones on. It's okay to not to say to people, hey, I'm not going to go out tonight. I'm not going to go. I need some time alone in my room. And that's okay, because you need to be able to refresh emotionally and get that energy back.
I get up in the morning if I can, make sure that I shower or do some sort of thing just by myself, for myself. I'll write, or I'll go and just look out a window and sit for a little bit by myself. And in the evenings, I'll do the same thing.
Extroverts are fueled by being around people.
Usually I'm a person that enjoys sharing with other people. I mean, some people like to back in a corner and read, but I'm someone who likes to get with a group of people that I know, understand, and trust.
We decompress every night. Everybody goes around in a circle
and talk about the day. What's been going on with them, what's been going on with me, and share the events of the day.
One of our nights together in group was very, very helpful for people because they had been very frustrated. Most people were very frustrated and angry, and so we we allowed time for that to just hash it out and try and address their concerns while also challenging them, because these trips are challenging. But to just say it's okay that you're frustrated, you might stay frustrated, and we love you, and we're gonna, we're all trying to walk this together and be gracious with one another.
As a team member, if you are in the midst of the week and you just are feeling overwhelmed, there's nothing to say that you can't come back to the village early one day, or even not go out to the work site one day.
I would encourage volunteers to bring one of their creature comforts from home that's appropriate for the situation. Music that you load on your phone, your favorite stuffed animal, your favorite book to read, your favorite sweater that brings with you comforting memories. But to bring tangible artifacts with you that can help promote self-care while you're doing your volunteer work.
When I have my team set up to go into disaster volunteers, I pair them up and I put them in teams. And they're supposed to watch out for each other. And one of the things I have them do is a little exercise. I have them name, what are the signs and symptoms when I know that I'm out of balance? People are like, oh, I start saying, they're I'm grumping about, or I get real agitated. And then I say to them, when your partner sees that in you, how can they help you with that?
Do not take on other people's problems. You can empathize with them, work hard next to them, but don't take them on, because that will deplete you, and you are not a problem solver.
One of the big things that people have a difficulty with when you deploy to a disaster is letting go. I mean, how do you let go? How do you go back to your warm house and your car and your community that's all together when somebody has lost everything?
Leaving is hard. It's saying goodbye to people that you've just met. You get to say hello at the beginning of the week, then you have to say goodbye. And it happens every time. You don't want to.
Almost every trip that I've led or participated on, we've had someone or some people tear up the night before we leave or the morning we leave, and they don't want to leave. It's not done. We haven't finished. What you have to remember, as far as the work goes, you're there just to do your part, and the next team, you have to trust them to do their part.
We hate to walk away from an unfinished job.
The important thing is that they have made progress. There's a difference from yesterday, today, and the next day because they were there in that particular moment. And that is enough.
You may be in the middle of hanging drywall, you don't even get to the taping, but we're all doing something. Each one of us is like a drop of rain, and it fills the stream, and together we're just a whole ocean wiping away a need. And if you can explain it that way, that each one of us is important, and that little drop seems like nothing, but together it's just a mighty river.
When I come back from some disaster and people have died and you see all this destruction, and you come back and then you hear people whining and complaining because they broke a nail or something, you don't have that tolerance.
When we return, there's always that ability to, be on kind of a mountain high and come back and completely forget after a few months the work that we've done and the experiences that we've had.
One of the things I found helpful was for the team to have some sort of a planned reunion when we got back home. Because no matter how you try to explain it to your wife, your children, your friends, they weren't there. They didn't see what you saw, they didn't feel what you felt, they didn't hear what you heard. So when the team gets back together, you can really share a lot without having to say a lot.
When I come back from a disaster, I experience a lot of emotion. I experience a lot of the thoughts and feelings that I don't necessarily experience there on scene. For me, I've been very busy when I get home. A lot of times it hits me a week or two later. And a lot of times that's where people they've forgotten about you.
They need to be able to share the story of their volunteer work. And they need to find ways to both relax and to care for body, mind, and spirit.
I also encourage people to journal, their experiences when they get back. That can be very helpful too. Everybody deals with it in a different way after deployments. And I think you've got to find your own way of what helps you. This is what I ask people. What helps you most to process this event?
We hope that the principles and ideas we've shared with you in this brief video have given you some creative and good ideas for taking care of yourselves and each other while you're in the field, while you're sharing your gifts with people who have lost because of disaster. We urge you to sit down with your work team leader, come up with a plan before you leave, practice these principles while you are on the trip, and then when you return, to continue self-care.